relationships, spirituality, social conformity, and personal identity. Exploring teen topics from a biblical worldview. Teens Rock.
Welcome to a very special edition of Teens Rock. I'm your host, Joe Ardis Horn. I'm joined in the studio for the very first time ever by my gorgeous wife, Catherine Horn.
Hi.
It's good to see you.
It's great to be here.
I'm glad you're here for this.
I'm excited.
Teens Rock. We have some unbelievable guests joining us in the studio today to talk about their original music. Singer-songwriters Alicia and Whitney. Welcome to the program, ladies.
Thank you, Joe.
It's good to see you.
Here.
Okay, so confession time.
Uh-oh.
About 2 months ago, I had the privilege, my wife and I did, of seeing these young ladies perform their music ministry at a function that our church put on. And we were so moved by their ministry that I said, at the time we're getting ready to launch the Teens Rock program, I've got to get these ladies on. Ladies, you guys, it's so obvious when you sing your songs that the lyrics, the message, everything about it is written from the heart. We were moved by your testimony. You would weave in between some of the songs that you're doing. All original stuff, all from the heart. And what's really evident is God in the message.
Yes.
I want to ask you straight out of the gate, why my daughters have decided that you're their new heroes.
Oh, we love that. We love that. That's awesome.
Took a video on my cell phone a couple of weeks ago and sent it to you, Kate and Juanita, and they've been playing your song Beauty. Is it from my
Beauty for my ashes.
Beauty for my ashes, almost on a loop for 6 to 8 weeks now. They absolutely like the new heroes.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Well, I'm glad you're not sick of us yet.
Yeah.
She invited us on the show.
Well, he doesn't have to hear it because it's in my car.
Oh,
So-
okay, that's true.
No, actually, I'm not. I actually love it too, just as much. And actually, the 2-year-old will actually start singing it too. Beauty for my ashes, beauty for my ashes.
We loved that video. It just made our entire day. I showed everybody, like, look, they're singing it. It's cool to see.
Well, let me ask you, we'll start with you, Alicia. Let's get right into this. What is it that compelled you guys to take your music to your sisters? The program, the viewers at home should know that you're sisters.
Yep.
Did you guys grow up singing songs together, or was this something that kind of developed over time? And what was it that finally compelled you to start your music ministry?
Yeah. Normally, you know, when we talk about our ministry starting, we just think of a few years ago when we lost our dad to cancer.
Oh, no.
But the more that I reflect upon that and the more I look back on my life, I realize that God had been planting seeds in us from the time we were little kids. And we grew up in a musical family. Our mother is a talented vocalist, and our father was just a great musician, bass player, guitar player, drums, and they exposed us to different types of music, country, blues, southern gospel. And from the time we were a young age, the Lord was just depositing things into us. And we, as life went on and we went through some challenges, like when our parents separated or things like that, we learned to lean on him in those times.
Right.
And we began to journal and write poetry and write songs. And little by little, God was pulling those giftings out of us. And so when the time came when we lost our father to cancer in 2013, both in our early 20s, those things that God had taught us to lean on through our whole life, we had that. We had the rock. And we had those giftings of writing to process that. And the difference between this time, when we went through a rough time, we didn't just keep it to ourselves. And we said, God, we know these songs that you've given us through the darkest moments of grief in our life, we know that you're going to use them to help other people. And not just, and we surrendered it. We said, God, take over. If you want these to be out in the public, you can have them. If not, if you want to just have them minister to us, we're okay with that too, but we just want you to take over. And that's really when the ministry part, where we started taking it to others. And that's what our ministry is about, is hurting people, whether grief or loss or just when life knocks you down in general. That's our heart. So.
And you guys, you lost your father to cancer in 2013. You guys wrote a song Is that correct? Save a Dance for Me.
Yes.
And that video, you guys did a video. It has over 50,000 and growing views on Facebook alone.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about what exactly was on your mind when you guys wrote that? And Whitney, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, well, I might hand it over to Alicia because a lot of it came out of, we were just in different places in life when we lost our dad, and specifically, she was engaged to be married, and so Alicia wrote this song through that experience, so I'll let you share.
Yeah, just a couple weeks after my dad passed, I was thinking about all the things that he would miss. He would miss, you know, seeing us graduate college. He would miss walking me down the aisle or the daddy-daughter dance because I was engaged at the time. And I thought about all those things, and I said, you know what? I wouldn't wish him back because I know he's in paradise. And I know he's not suffering from sickness anymore. But I will say, Daddy, save a dance for me.
Yeah.
And Whitney made the video montage of moments with our dad, and we had a spiritual mentor, Debbie, say this needs to be posted for other girls and for other people experience this, and so we did, and God's hand of favor was just on it, and many views later, and it was shared on littlethings.com, and there we were really honored for that. But also, one of the best things is brides are singing it at their wedding. And
That's so cool.
We've been requested to send the soundtrack to girls that have wanted it sung at their wedding, and that's really been the biggest honor for us.
Sure.
That's amazing.
Now, God's been opening doors, and this thing's been happening organically. You guys have given him your gifts, and see, that's what Teens Rock is all about. We just posted an episode on finding your gift, and this plays really well into that. And by the way, at the opening of the program, when I talked about my girls listening to you guys, I'm okay with that because, see, oftentimes Hollywood will present a role model figure to young people that ultimately disappoint the young person and the parents. And you guys are exactly the type of people that I want my kids listening to. This is awesome. You know, spirit-filled people that are using their gifts for the Lord. And as a result of that obedience and being a great role model for young people, he's opening doors. You've just said, here it is, and he's the one that's opening doors. And speaking of doors, you guys were able to get into the studio with some serious musicians to cut your very first CD, and it's titled Core. So Whitney, why don't you tell us a little bit about how that happened? And like I understand, you guys got to record with like Carrie Underwood's drummer and some other folks. Piano player.
Yeah, Oak Ridge Boys.
These are
drummers.
Nashville level folks, and God just put all this together. And your guys' CD, it is not a demo, ladies and gentlemen. This is a serious business CD. World-class job. And I can't believe you guys cut it in the time frame that you had to work with. But again, when you give God something, he just absolutely will blow the minds of people's expectations.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, you talk about open doors, and we never witnessed it, I think, any better than we did with this CD project, because like Alicia said, we wrote these songs and we said, God, if you want them out there, we feel like they need to be out there, but it's in your hands, because obviously we were college students at the time, and she was getting ready to get married, you know, and we're like, this is out of our budget, out of even what we could imagine that we could be doing. So we gave it to God, and we all came together, and the man who was going to produce our CD, we just all met in a living room with our family and a couple friends, and just prayed about it. And what we like to call priming the pump happened that night, where one person laid down a certain amount, and another person laid down a certain amount, and they said, Lord, we're priming the pump for you to bring in the rest of the money for this. So so we continued on, and we didn't really feel any leading which way of how to raise this money, because we've done fundraising and stuff before with missions, but never for something like this. And so we didn't really feel a leading, and so we went back up north to where we're from, in Rockford, Illinois, and sang at a church there that my dad and I actually helped plant before we moved down to Branson. And we got to sing there, and afterwards a couple of the members, the pastor and the deacon, came up to us, and they're like, these need to be recorded, these need to be out there. And we're like, yeah, tell us about it, you know.
We keep hearing that.
Right, like, I think this is confirmation. So we're like, yeah, and we explained the situation. Like, we have a producer, he can do it for this crazy good amount, you know, of money, discounted, with, like you said, amazing musicians in Nashville. And so we told them the amount, and they're like, okay. And it happened that's when I just started learning the guitar. And so the deacon was going to string my guitars for me, or the strings, on my guitar. So he's like, well, I'll get this back to you. Don't worry about it before you head back home. So I was like, okay. So he brings it to my house and leaves. And when I open up the guitar case, there was a check for the
Oh my goodness.
amount that we needed.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And this is like a small church.
Yeah.
It's by no means
Wow.
like a mega, church at all.
Wow.
It was
Right, right.
a few people. And so that's when we knew it was like, okay, God, you're up to something. Like, this is meant to be.
We cried.
Yeah, a few tears, a few happy dances. But so then that's really how the process began, and we got to go to Nashville and do all the recording, and it was,
Now, were you guys nervous going into the studio like, okay, we got our money, the Lord is obviously guiding this whole process, but now we actually have to step up and get on a
Yeah.
microphone and lay these songs down, and you had some limitations on time. Is that right?
Yeah, we actually, all the musicians within our budget, we had 1 day to work with them, and it was
Oh,
10
goodness.
hours, and it was all the musicians in one area, and we were singing the whole day, and I mean, those guys are so talented and gifted that they knocked it out, and it was intimidating because here we weren't really fluent in the language of music as far as instruments and things, but we were like, this is kind of what we want. And it goes, go on the minor, I think that's the sound. And so I'm sure they got a kick out of us, but just God's hand and just his presence was there throughout the whole time recording, and what we came out with, and the ministry tool we've been given to share with others, it's just more than we could ever think or imagine. It was a very big blessing.
right.
So
And
Awesome.
sometimes you get in situations that are kind of bigger than yourself, and
Yes.
Right.
then you just kind of have to step out in faith, because our whole lives, that was so out of reach for us, like going to Nashville, recording with, professional people like that.
Sure. Right.
We never, even being singers our whole lives, that was completely out of reach. And so sometimes, when God calls you to things, you just kind of have to take that step and go for it, even if you feel unqualified, because
Right.
most of the time we'll probably feel unqualified if we're doing what God's called us to do.
Right.
Right.
Well, and that's
Well-
usually a good indication that God is calling you
That's true.
to
Right.
do what he wants you to do, is that uncomfortableness of saying, okay, God, I guess it is really in your
Yeah.
hands,
Right.
So, yeah, getting out of your comfort zone.
if you can do it all on your own, it's not big enough.
Exactly.
Right.
That's when faith steps in.
Right.
Well, we've got a treat for our viewers. Stay tuned, because here in just a few minutes, for those that are watching the show thinking, okay already, I'd love to hear these ladies sing, you're going to get that opportunity. We recorded a couple of songs here in the studio just a little while ago. Absolutely mind-boggling. Your guys' harmony is phenomenal.
Oh, thank
And
you.
some of that might be that you're sisters, so you grew up wherever, and you
Yeah.
genetically have similar vocal abilities and stuff. But what a treat. So here in just a few minutes, you're going to get to hear one song, and then the second one is going to be put together as a web exclusive, and you'll have to go to your guys' website in order to check that out. So why don't you tell folks, where can people find more about you online?
Yeah, you can find us at www.aliciaandwhitney.com, and that's all spelled out, Alicia and Whitney. And we're also on Facebook, we're on YouTube, and we're on Twitter. So you can locate us at any of those places.
Also, our CDs are available on Amazon, iTunes, and most major music distributors, so you can find that there as well.
So stay tuned, because that web exclusive song, it's a jewel. And just here in a moment, you're going to get to hear So Much More. Now, that's the title of the song we recorded here, and they're going to get to hear that one. Let's change gears for just a second. Now, you guys incorporated the theme, keeping it global, as a part of your ministry. What does that mean?
Missions has been a big part of our lives. I went on my first missions trip overseas, and I was 20, just out of my teens, and I worked at an orphanage there, and it just changed my life forever. That there's a whole world out there outside of your own little world, and there's people hurting, and there's poverty and so much, and so God instilled that in me at that trip. And the next one, I took Whitney along, and that was really a step of faith for her, because traveling was always something kind of scary for her. And so she took the step of faith there as well and went. And since then, when God opens the doors for trips, for missions, we've gotten to go to Honduras a total of 4 times. In January, we just got back from Tanzania, Africa, and spent about 3 weeks there. And also God opened the door for us to go to Israel, which was more of a spiritual journey and just getting to see that. But keeping it global is keeping it in our minds.
Sure.
To keep it global.
Right.
It's not my own little world anymore.
Right. Right.
And so that's always something that we take with us when we go and sing, and we invest in missions in this ministry as a
Right.
whole.
Right.
Well, that is the commission of the gospel.
Yeah.
Right.
To go unto the entire world and preach the gospel to every living thing. So keeping it global, you can't go wrong there.
Right.
Beauty from My Ashes. Now, this is a song, if people pick up the CD, they're going to get to hear this, the
Yes.
studio cut. But it's also a book that you've published, Beauty for My Ashes. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So as Alicia said, after losing our dad, we just did a lot of writing to kind of heal through that time. And
Right.
so I just started kind of writing in a journal and just compiling a lot of things. Because really I just remember when my dad passed away and we were at his hospital bed, it was just kind of like, okay, where does Whitney go from here? Like, what do I do? And what does my life look like now
Right.
without my dad? Because he was such a big part of our lives as a
Right.
pastor, a friend, a mentor, you know,
Right.
he was hilarious. We just loved him. And so it was just like, where do I go from here? And I realized that there have to be a lot of people in that situation when they
Yes.
lose, it may not be their dad, but whoever it is, when they lose that loved one and they're like,
Right.
where do I go from here? And what does grief look like to me?
Right.
And so I wanted to write a book for people like that where they could read it and first of all, just be encouraged because it's a
Right.
very hard, depressing time to walk through,
Sure.
especially if you don't kind of have guidance. And so I wanted to write something that people could just read, not very big, it's not a huge book, but it's just enough to kind of say, this, you may experience this, or you may
Right.
feel this, and these are healthy ways to cope with that.
Sure.
And it's faith-centered, and so I talk about God a lot and allowing him to heal you through
Right.
this time because it's a process, and it takes time to heal, and a lot of people just need to hear simple things like that.
Right.
But sometimes they hear so many negative things from people who haven't been in that situation. Like, you should
Exactly.
be over it by now, or, why are you still talking about it? You really need to
Right.
move forward. And it's like, this is from someone who's been through it and who has
Absolutely.
walked through it and who
It's very
has been
important.
healed,
Right.
and it's something that we face our entire lives. I couldn't look at you and say today, like, oh, I don't ever cry about it, or I don't ever feel bad, because you have those days.
Of
But
course.
Right.
but there is life after a death. And
Right.
that's what really the message I wanted to get across was that you're still here for a reason,
Right.
and God still has plans and purposes for you. And so just take this time to heal and then walk out the calling that he has for you and really carry on the legacy of the loved one that's gone
Right.
on.
Right.
Right. As much as it may be difficult, some of the most significant moments where God is stretching us and we're developing who we become and we're obedient through those tough times, some of those are the grave challenges of losing a loved one.
Right.
We recently put out a CD that a lot of our SkyWatch followers are aware of now, Joe Horn and Broken for Good. One of the tracks is called Come All My Children. And that was written out of the original idea behind the song came out of the fact that Catherine and I had experienced a miscarriage. And I saw in my mind's eye, I really believed while I was struggling with that, the Lord show me all of these children walking into his presence.
Right.
And we've gotten a lot of emails and comments from folks that have either played that at
Yeah.
funerals or it meant something to them while they were losing someone to something like cancer.
Right.
And so would I want to do that again? No.
No.
God has his reasons for why he allows us at times to be under great challenge.
Right.
But the depth of lyrics that you guys have conveyed in a lot of these songs to me are heartfelt and, like you say, real. You
Yeah.
can write a song like that because you really know what it is to
Right.
walk through that. It's not just, hey, that's a good meme.
Right.
Right.
I like
Exactly.
that. Hey,
Yeah.
that'll really register.
That's a
with
hook
people.
line.
Yeah, I like that. Let's
Exactly.
do that. It's real.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
real. It's totally real.
Yeah.
So I can say without hesitation at all, parents, if you're watching this program and you're thinking, man, I've got young ones in the house, or for yourself, you got to get a copy of this CD titled Core. These ladies are phenomenal,
Yes.
phenomenal vocalists.
Thank you.
So what is next for Alicia and Whitney? What do you guys see yourself doing? Or is it really more of a, let's just see what God reveals type situation?
It's a little bit of that, a little bit of this, but really, we've continued writing, And actually, I feel like God's developed that gifting even more. I've picked up the piano. Whitney's just grown leaps and bounds in her guitar playing. And I feel like we have a sound that, a heart cry, I guess is what we call it.
Yeah.
And that resonates with a lot of people. And we're working on starting our next album.
Awesome.
And we're hoping that it'll lead more towards the worship side of things. Core is more about storytelling, about God bringing us back to the core of who he created us to be. And this next one's more worship focused.
Awesome.
And we're really excited about that.
Yeah. And I'm also starting a second book. I self-published Beauty for My Ashes, and then God's having me write a next book that I wanted to do for a while, and it's actually not about grief at all, but it is for singles. So people who aren't married, maybe divorced or widowed, or maybe you're in a relationship, but you're not, quite to the marriage stage yet. I just wanted to write a book to kind of, help the day-to-day, because there's so much more to a person than their marital status.
Right.
And some people think like, oh, I can't really go far in life until I find someone.
Right.
Or maybe if you've lost someone, then it's like, well, then what do I do with my life now? And it's like, God has so much for you as a
Right.
single. And it is lonely and it is hard to do everything on your own. But there are still plans and purposes for you, and you can do a lot of things before you get married. And so, and I'm a
Right.
living proof of that. So I just wanted to encourage singles out there, because it is a hard walk, but it is purposeful.
Well, and sometimes you can probably get more done sometimes
Yeah.
as a single just because you don't have the husband or the wife.
Right.
That also you have to be considerate to, or kids. Once you throw kids into the mix, then that brings a whole new other level. So yeah, sometimes as a single you probably can get more
Right, a
done
lot of
to a degree.
Very true, very true.
Well, you guys have had a chance to hear a little bit of their testimony. Guys, that's just a little piece, but now you're going to get to hear their sound. So without further ado, so much more right here in the SkyWatch TV studio. Alicia and Whitney.
When I look at me, I see the stain sin hasn't left. All my insecurities are exposed and I feel helpless. But then, Lord, you remind me that I am your creation, and I'm not just what I see. No, I am all you envision. 'Cause you call me perfect, you call me sanctified, you call me beautiful, you call me worthy, you call me pure. Yes, you call me so much more. Yeah, you call me so much They all look at me and judge me by my past, and their words pierce me, make me feel so worthless. But then, Lord, you remind me that I am your creation, and I'm not what they call me. No, I am all you envision. me so much more, yeah, you call me so much more. And Lord, you created me, but people label me till I don't know who I am anymore. Then your arms surround me, and your love confirms me, yeah, yeah, 'cause you call me so much more. And Lord, you created me, but people label me till I don't know who I am anymore. Then your arms surround me, and your love confirms me, yeah, yeah, 'cause you call me so much more. And he calls you so much more.
Absolutely unbelievable. If you want to hear the other song we recorded just moments ago, go to aliciaandwhitney.com. It's the website you see on the bottom of your screen. That will be revealed there exclusively. People, if you want to get your own copy of the CD Core by Alicia and Whitney or the book Beauty for My Ashes by Whitney, you can do so at their website, aliciaandwhitney.com. But we're also making both of them available at the SkyWatchTVStore.com. That's SkyWatchTVStore.com. You can go there for prices and more information. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us on the program. All the best. I know God's got big plans for you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
Yeah.
guys for having us. It's really an honor.
Yes.
For Alicia and Whitney and Catherine Horn, I'm Joe Ardis Horn. Thanks for joining us. Young people, if you want to know what the future of tomorrow looks like, take a look in the mirror, because you are the face of tomorrow.